A couple days ago, I was thinking about my death. Not to start this video off all morbid or anything, but I was thinking about how I would like to be sent off after I go into the afterlife. And I was sitting there looking at the sky and I was like, I'd like to be put on a rocket ship and just blasted off into outer space, never to be seen again. Because I don't want to be left on this hellhole and be buried on the same planet that, like, James Corden's going to be buried on. I want to get as far away from everyone as possible. And then right when I was thinking that, like, the next day I see this article that comes out that says the remains of dead American presidents are going to be launched into space. They're going to be taking the DNA of 4 former presidents that have died, that being George Washington, Dwight Eisenhower, JFK, and Ronald Reagan, and they're going to put them on this rocket and just, shoot them up into space. For what reason? I have no clue. They're just doing it. So all those people are lucky enough to be living my dream. I can only hope I'm as successful in death as they are. But anyways, after that, I got to looking around a bit more, sniffing around, seeing if I could find some other cool facts about space and the universe, because I'm pretty into that. I like looking into that subject. I'm not smart on the topic, but I like looking up at the stars and going, hey man, that'd be pretty cool if we could get out there and explore. And with the James Webb Telescope just recently launching, we have been able to explore better than ever. So today I'm going to be talking about some space news, because some pretty daggone interesting things have been going on out in the great unknown. The first thing I want to talk about is the James Webb Telescope detecting evidence of these ancient universe breaker galaxies. There's 6 of them, and they're practically rewriting everything we thought we knew about the universe. And these 6 pixel art looking images are the 6 galaxies in question. And the reason it's so crazy and so unbelievable that these things exist and are the size that they are is because these things popped up around a time when the universe was just 3% of its current age. To put that into a time reference, it's about 500 to 700 million years after the Big Bang happened. So this was when the universe was still in its infancy, taking its baby steps. So naturally, when experts and researchers looked back to this time period, they were expecting very tiny baby galaxies to go, "Aw, look how cute the little galaxies are." But instead, they found these massive galaxies that are just incomprehensibly huge. It's so incomprehensible that I can't even say incomprehensible right. And here's a quote from one of the assistant professors of astronomy and astrophysics at Penn State University, Joel Leja. He said, "We only expected to find tiny, young baby galaxies at this point in time, but we've discovered galaxies as mature as our own in what was previously understood to be the dawn of the universe." But fun fact, these aren't even the oldest galaxies that the James Webb Telescope has discovered. These galaxies are about 13.5 billion years old, but last year in December, they spotted 4 galaxies that date back to about 350 million years after the Big Bang. But they were, of course, much smaller. They were around the expected size they were supposed to be, instead of these behemoth galaxies that just have no rhyme or reason as to why they're as big as they are during a time when they shouldn't be that big. But the calculations of these new galaxies they discovered, they estimate they harbor about tens of hundreds of billions of sun-sized stars worth of mass that put them on par with our very own Milky Way galaxy in terms of size and all that kind of stuff. And one of my favorite quotes from this entire article here that pretty much sums everything up: "It's bananas," said Nelson. "These galaxies should not have had time to form." And another quote about these galaxies says, "It calls the whole picture of the early galaxy formation into question." It's just making these scientists absolutely scratch their noggins, hurt themselves in their own confusion, because they just they thought they had a good grasp on the early, obviously not 100%, but they thought they had a good understanding of the early stages of the universe. But now that could be entirely flipped upside down on its head and just utterly wrong. But of course, this doesn't immediately mean we have to abandon science. There's no hope for humanity. Everything we thought we knew was wrong. They are going to have to run some more tests, crunch some more numbers, do some more calculations before they can actually start to rewrite everything they thought they knew about the universe. But as of right now, it's looking like we know far less than we thought we knew. It's like the more you discover, the more questions you have. And that's practically it for this story. It came out towards the end of February, so about a week or two ago. and I'm just now getting around to talking about it. I have been wanting to talk about it for a bit, but the James Webb Telescope has been absolutely pumping out just top tier content. The first images that released when it first was launched were amazing. It's been constantly providing amazing information, amazing updates, and this right here is just one of the many things it's going to be able to achieve and uncover. Now, our next story is not toned down in weirdness whatsoever, because this one says that the sun, our sun in the solar system, has a heartbeat. I know that sounds insane, but researchers discovered a very mysterious source of what they're calling a heartbeat-like radio burst in the form of solar flares coming from our sun. They say that a solar radio burst with signal pattern akin to that of a heartbeat has been pinpointed in the sun's atmosphere, according to a new study. And when I read that, I thought it was pretty wild. Imagine that, the sun's a living being, and it could just absolutely incinerate us if it wanted to. If it would move a little bit further away, we'd freeze to death. A little bit closer, and we'd all burn to death. Food for thought, just something to put you to sleep. But the source location of the radio signal was coming within a C-class solar flare more than 5,000 kilometers above the sun's surface. And researchers say that this study and its findings could help scientists to better understand the physical processes behind the energy release of solar flares, which, of course, is the solar system's most powerful explosions. Those solar flares are not to be messed with. It's like a nuke times a billion. If this was rock, paper, scissors, solar flare would win every time. But of course, this heartbeat pattern doesn't mean that the sun is a living, breathing entity. It's not gonna like start talking to us or, start having relationships with other suns. It just has to do with energy release, practically. This quote says, "This beating pattern is important for understanding how energy is released and is dissipated in the sun's atmosphere during these incredibly powerful explosions on the sun. However, the origin of these repetitive patterns, also called quasi-periodic pulsations, have long been a mystery and a source of debate among solar physicists." So pretty much they can't figure out what the root cause or the reason that these heartbeat-like solar flares are being rhythmically spouted out from the sun for. They're trying to figure that. That's the mystery. Not that the sun actually has like anatomy inside like a heart. And as a matter of fact, it's not even entirely uncommon for this to happen. A quote of this research says, "The repeating patterns are not uncommon for solar radio bursts. But interestingly, there is a secondary source we did not expect located along the stretched current sheet that pulses in a similar fashion as the main QPP source." QPP standing for quasi-periodic pulsations. That's a tongue twister. So this pretty much just helped us better understand the function of our star as well as, just stars in general. Now, our next bit of goofy space news is runaway black hole the size of 20 million suns found speeding through space with a trail of newborn stars behind it. But this article says astronomers have discovered a runaway black hole, potentially the first observable evidence that a supermassive black hole can be ejected from their host galaxies. So this thing got kicked out like a rebellious teenager onto the streets, but in this case, the black hole, supermassive black hole, the size of 20 million suns, incomprehensibly large, got kicked out of its host galaxy just to be roaming free, sucking up and devouring anything in its path. And that's not the only thing. It's got a trail behind it. It bought a cosmetic trail because it's got a chain of stars trailing behind it. That'd be pretty cool to see. It'd probably be like seeing like the Dragon Balls almost. And they actually discovered this black hole as a bright streak of light when they were using the Hubble Space Telescope, the tried and true, the OG, when they were observing a dwarf galaxy, RCP-28, located about 7.5 billion light years from Earth. And then throughout follow-up observations, they showed that the streak measures more than 200,000 light years long, roughly twice the width of the Milky Way galaxy. Twice the width of our galaxy is how big this streak is. God. And this streak is thought to be made of compressed gas that is actively forming stars as this black hole travels through the galaxy. So this black hole is taking life as well as giving life. It's literally just playing Agario. It's out there just gobbling up stuff. And just to put in perspective how utterly insignificant we are, it says the gas trails a black hole that is estimated to measure 20 million times the mass of the sun and is speeding away from its home galaxy at 3.5 million miles an hour, 5.6 million kilometers an hour for you weirdos out there, or roughly 4,500 times the speed of sound. And the reason this is such crazy news is that we've never observed, I say we, but scientists have never observed, humankind has never observed massive, supermassive black holes escaping their host galaxies. Because typically how it works with galaxies, there's a supermassive black hole in the center. That's like a common trend you'll realize with galaxies. That's what I'm told through what I've read. And it's never been observed before for one to leave the galaxy that it resides in. And if this information can be confirmed, it would be the first time ever, once again, that a supermassive black hole has been confirmed to have left its host galaxy, which is pretty massive, pretty groundbreaking news. But if the fact of it leaving its host galaxy isn't enough, if that's confirmed, they have to figure out how or why or what caused this thing to be ejected from its host galaxy. But a quote from this says that the most likely scenario that explains everything we've seen is a slingshot caused by a three-body interaction. The Three-Body Problem, good book. Van Dockum said, when three similar mass bodies gravitationally interact, the interaction does not lead to a stable configuration, but usually to the formation of a binary and the ejection of the third body. So if this theory is true, that means that this supermassive black hole was once part of a pretty rare supermassive black hole binary, and during a galactic merger, a third supermassive black hole was, brought into this little partnership, a little bit of polyamorous relationship. And then it flung out one of the occupants, that being the galaxy, or the black hole that got shot out from the galaxy. But of course, just like with every other bit of space news, researchers aren't sure at all. They're going to have to run some more tests. But these supermassive black holes being ejected from their galaxies, their home galaxies, have been predicted for about 50 years, but none have been seen until now. And also, many theorists do think that there should be many of these, ejected black holes out there. So they don't think this is a one-off situation. They think it's a very common thing, but of course it's a theory and hasn't been confirmed. This is our first sighting of a potential one right here. Now, our last bit of super space news is that a star didn't go supernova after colliding with another star, and researchers say they haven't seen anything like this in over 30 years of research. And the title of this article says, "Fireworks Sparked by Survivor of Stellar Collision. The object powering this display may be the result of a supernova that didn't destroy the stars involved." And just to explain to you what normally happens, when two white dwarfs in a binary star system eventually spiral in toward each other and collide, the result is usually mutually assured destruction. A thermonuclear explosion that consumes both stars and scatters their remains into the cosmos. But astronomers have found one case where such a collision resulted in fireworks of a different kind. And these new observations of the faint nebula PA30 have revealed that it is surrounded by filaments of glowing sulfur gas that appear like trails of fireworks when they explode. And they think that the scene was caused when two white dwarf stars collided and managed not to destroy each other, instead somehow merging together and forming like a magnetic monster of a star that just blows out its own space material, or its own material into space, just like poof, 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 like a firework. And a researcher, Robert Fesson, was who I quoted at the beginning, and he says, "I've worked on supernova remnants for 30 years, and I've never seen anything like this." And he even follows that up with another quote that says, "There's nothing like this in our galaxy." But to give you a bit more lore on this firework supernova merger thingy, the PA30, it lies about 7,500 years away in Cassiopeia, and spans roughly 3 inches, or about 1/10 the width of the full moon. And it was discovered by an amateur astronomer, Dana Patrick, in 2013. And when they studied it in the data, the object had a rather conventional circular donut kind of appearance that kind of resembled a planetary nebula, which is an object formed when an aging star sheds its outer layers of gas into space and then irradiates that gas exciting it and causing it to glow. But they barely detected any emissions from hydrogen, oxygen, or nitrogen gas, and since there was apparently nothing to study, the researchers never fully scrutinized the data, and it turns it into this, like, cold case of sorts, because they thought there was nothing to study. But then, of course, there was new information, which I read to you a minute ago when they found all that stuff out about the star forming, merging, creating this firework kind of appearance type of deal with their merger. And then they also say that they're looking forward to follow-up observations of the object with the Hubble or James Webb Space Telescope, which should be amazing, quote. And that's it for super spectacular space news. Remember, next time you're outside at night, look up at the sky, see all those twinkling little stars, and just think, maybe just ponder, wonder, maybe that one right there, that bright one, that bright one in between the two dim ones, maybe there's someone that's similar to me living there, looking up at the same stars as me, the same skies, the same universe. Maybe they're wondering the same thing I'm wondering. And maybe they also have a wicked foot fetish, much like myself. Maybe we're not so different after all. Millions and billions of light years away. But still, we like sucking on toes.